Scott's Royal Mariner finally did come last night at 8:30 at night. And the good news is I wound them both. It's kept good time. It's chimed like it's supposed to, so it's working. Yay. But this is a really cool clock. This is the only style. I've seen one with an oak wheel around it. But it's the only one that opens on this side. The hinge is over here. And I remember that from my dad winding it when I was a kid. Because he was left-handed, my stepdad. And I remember him winding. I don't remember where he kept the key. I don't remember what the key looked like. I remembered the design. I remembered how it opened. And I remember him winding it. And I don't know why. But we're going to talk about what the different bells should be. I didn't really talk about that in the other video. We are going to get back into that Seth Thomas Ships Bell clock because it is still acting up. This one, the cover removes from unscrewing it. I don't know why they didn't make it easy open. This one, apparently someone had got some pliers on it and tried to pry it off without much success. They cracked the glass a little bit. They bent these up and made the brass come off. I kind of touched it up with some of that rub and buff just so that it's not black spots on the face there. But somebody did quite a number on it. It is not the easiest thing to unscrew. If you clean out the little grooves and wax them good, it'll help. These are my smooth needle nose. They've got a tiny little bit of a diamond pattern in there, but it is flat. Like, it's pretty smooth. Three screws hold the face on and also hold the movement into the case, so everything can be done from the front. And for some reason this one is mounted on this board, which makes it nice for hanging, because if you want to set it down, they're very front heavy. They want to tip over forward. You have to have some kind of curved rest for them to sit in or mount them on something. Alright, we should have talked about the ship's bells before I got much further. A ship bell clock only dings 8 times at the maximum. It's not like a cuckoo clock where it dings whatever the hour is, because then you would have to stop and count and you might be off some. This clock is designed for you to be able to know what time it is without having to see it. In the dark you could know what time it is. So it does 8 bells maximum at 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And that was shift change, basically. I don't know what, I can't think of what they called it in the military, but at 12 o'clock you have 8 bells. At 12:30 you get 1 bell. 1 o'clock, 2 bells. 1:30, 3 bells. 2 o'clock, 4 bells. You're halfway, right? 8 bells, 4 bells, 8 bells. So 2 bells, 4 bells, 6 bells, 8 bells. And on the half hour, it's an odd number of bells. The bells ring close together, ding, 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 ding. That way you can go, okay, that's 6. You don't have to count them. You're just going to know in your head after you've listened to this any length of time at all, because I grew up listening to one. Whatever hour of the night you wake up, you know, and it goes ding, 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 that it's 1:30. So it repeats at 4 o'clock, 8 bells, 4:30, 1 bell, 5 o'clock, 2 bells, 3 bells, 4 bells, 5 bells, 6 bells, 7 bells, 8 bells, and on around. So the mechanism is set up in such a way, kind of like a quail, the little pegs that trip a quail, it goes coo, coo, coo. This is set up to go ding, ding on a little gear in there. It's got 2 little spikes close together and a gap. 2 little spikes and a gap. So it's going to go ding, ding no matter what. But they've set up a mechanism so that the second ding, ding, if you need an odd number, this little thing catches the bell at the last minute and the second ding doesn't go. And I'll show you the strike mechanism. It's kind of like the snail on a cuckoo clock. It's got a rack and snail in here, but the snail only has 4 segments and they're long. There's not a segment for a half hour. It dings the same to the bell. It dings the same. The same impulse is given to it on the half hour and the hour. And what changes it is that little lever coming up and catching the arm and letting the last bell not get struck. So that's what this clock is messing up on. I got it working a little bit yesterday just by oiling it and playing with it. And it continued this morning at 7:30. It dinged 8 o'clock. So I am tired of listening to it chime wrong. So this is kind of tight when you've got it on strike and on as slow as it can go. This clock likes to run fast. I've got it as slow as it can go. Sometimes you have to move your little strike lever to get your faceplate off. That's what was holding this up. So there's that snail I was talking about. It's going to do ding ding, 2 bells, 4 bells, 6 bells, 8 bells, 2 bells, 4 bells, 6 bells, 8 bells, 2 bells, 4 bells, 6 bells, 8 bells. So they set it up for a 12-hour rotation. This turns 1 time in 12 hours. And so this little lever is going to hit on, this plane has no difference. They're all exactly the same level. But this lift lever that on your rack, there's a little shut-off arm here. And at the very end of it, what I tried to show you yesterday is an extra little piece that's on there. With a spring, it's an extra little piece that's supposed to come up. It's got a little crab claw on the end of it here, and it's supposed to grab this arm and keep the second bell from dinging. And this one is a little bit sluggish. Sometimes it comes up after the second one has rung, and it's like that when it's finished with the half hour. Normally the little crab claw is holding this arm, and then when it starts the next sequence, it moves out of the way and starts a full sequence. But mine is coming up and catching it after it's already dinged the whole cycle. So I'm going to work on that. There's a tiny little spring in here on it, and I'm guessing it's just dirty. I tried oiling it and it worked for a little bit, but it's hanging up again. I'm guessing it's just gummy and it's not letting it rise and fall like it's supposed to, so we're going to take this apart and clean it. So the first thing I want to do is take off my gong hammer and this cool little platform. There is a tiny little hairspring in there. This is a tiny little escapement wheel, and when I look up underneath there, the little pieces that are rocking on that escapement wheel, my verge, have little rubies on the end of them. So It is made for longevity. There's a ruby in the top for holding the hairspring. This part should last forever, your timekeeper part. This is your fast, slow lever attached to it. So it moves a little prong that's on the end of that little tiny hairspring. So we're going to take this off to start. I wanted to show you this platform escapement before I started taking things apart, because the light was catching it just right, and you can see the little flash of the pink right there on the verge. A little jewel flashing. It's very tiny. I'm glad I don't have to work on that. That thing's working. I'm just going to lift it off in one piece. First thing I'm going to do is take this off. I'm not going to take this off yet until I let the springs down, because once you take this off, that's the only thing controlling the pressure of the springs. It's what the springs finally, multiple gears, wind down to controlling this. So with this gone, the others will all spin, and I could damage my springs or barrels or gears. I didn't talk about this. It is a Hermle movement, which is German. 1985, France Hermle. Sorry. 11 jewels, 11 and then 11 in parentheses, jewels. Some numbers. It's a 132-071 if you wanted to replace the movement or needed to order spare parts. Hermle's still in business, so if I have any issues with any parts, I can get new parts. That's a good part about this. When I took this movement out of the case yesterday, I took it off of that wooden platform, and on the back of it was a sticker that said it had been serviced in 1986, but it also said movement replaced. So whatever movement was in this, the original owner opted for replacing the whole thing instead of having it worked on. Usually this bushing right here is your culprit. You can see it's kind of dirty, and I'm pretty sure when I get the grease cleaned out from around it, it's going to be moving some. It's the second gear. This is your great wheel right here, your springs, and this is the time side second wheel, and it gets the most abuse. These springs, I wound this thing, it'll run for at least 2 weeks. I don't know how long it ran before it finally wound down. It ran a long time, maybe 3 weeks. So the springs are strong. It's a lot of pressure on this very first gear that comes off of it, so this is the one that usually gets the abuse. And I believe off of this one, this is the second wheel. So we're going to check all of them and see any bushings we might need to do. But because these are such labor-intensive clocks with all the levers on the front, anybody that's worked on one knows there's a ton of springs and levers to adjust. Sometimes it's cheaper for the owner that takes it to a clock shop to just get a new movement put in. But I don't want to do that. I want to take this one apart and see how it works. So join me and we will adventure on to ship's clocks. See what happens. Alright, this is a 6mm. Looks like that's a pressure fitted washer holding the movement on. One little spring, release that spring, pop that off, and I'll be able to get these apart. Alright, and then the fan also. These clocks stay really clean because they're totally encased. So their biggest enemy is just the wear. Okay. 2 spacers. I'll have to look at my pictures to see which way they go. There's threads on the insides of them. Alright, be careful of your little platform. Put it in something that'll protect it while you let your springs down. Let's see where my clicks are. Underneath. This ring really blocks my light and makes it hard for me to see what's what. I believe, I'm trying to see how this spring right here is putting pressure on the click, how I can release it. Or that is my click, that spring. Okay. Want it good and solid. Got my homemade letdown tool just because it's out and it's easy to use. If you don't have a letdown tool, they're easy to make. Broom handle, any kind of paint roller handle, any kind of round handle. Cut a length that's comfortable for you to hold on to. The wood gives you extra traction. That's the thing. If you just try to let it down with the key, your fingers and wrists are not going to turn as smoothly as if you have it in something like this. So before you start, you drill a hole in the middle down through there, because some keys have an extension on the top and you want to be able to use it for different keys. Drill your hole, then drill a slot straight across, deep enough that you can set a key into it and have it hold well. And then this gives you traction. It can slowly turn. You don't have to move your wrist and get hurt. Alright, I still need some gloves. Even though these are in a barrel, chances of me getting hurt are very small. I still have glasses on and gloves on. Wrong glove. Alright, and then there's a tool I like to use. This was in my grandfather's soldering kit, so I'm not really sure what it does. I guess it moves points of solder around or holds things together. I don't know. But I like to use it for my clicks because it's pointed and it's strong. So if you wind it slightly, I'm trying to remember which way this one winds. Can't remember. Okay, it winds that way. So if you wind it slightly, it takes the pressure off your click and you'll be able to release it. I'll move this light down where I can see the click better. Okay, there is a little metal click and that spring pushes on the end of it, so I'm pushing on the back end of it. And with lots of practice, you can make it look easy. I don't ever release the spring from the click. That way, if I need to reposition my hands, everything is still holding. It doesn't take off on me. So just turn it till it doesn't want to turn anymore, and then your spring is all the way unwound inside the barrel. And same with the other side. It turns that way. The spot I'm pushing on is right here. This is a spring coming across, but this is a click right here, right at the end of it. So I'm pushing on the butt end of that. It's just letting the top come out of the gear that's down here and letting it unwind slowly. Okay. A little sawdust from my homemade tool. Now I feel like I can take this off. See, it's stopping. There's not momentum on it anymore. If I had to guess, if you had to buy one of these, you're looking at $80 to $100. I haven't looked at them. I've looked at them at other platform hairspring type escapement systems, and they were about $80. But I have a feeling this one's more. It's got more jewels. Okay, I've loosened that up. I'm going to loosen this little rod up. Let's see if this will lift. It is. There's a gear under it that it's interacting with, so you don't want to fight it too much. Just wiggle until you can get it loose. It's encased in a housing, and then there's a little tiny gear in there that interacts with that gear. There's two little posts right there, I think, that catch in something to help hold it. square because there's only 2 screws, so these 2 lock into the plate. So make sure you seat those. You can see the little rubies in the bottom here. One in the bottom of there, one there, one there. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 3 more somewhere. Your little fast and slow adjustment. Slides along that little tiny hairspring. It adjusts a lot farther out of the clock because in the clock this arm hits the little tiny slot they left for you to be able to adjust it. I've had this clock adjusted as slow as it can go because it likes to run fast. So hopefully the hairspring is in good shape. I'm looking at it. All the circles look pretty concentric except the last one is pretty far away. Okay, that goes all the way through. Doesn't come out till I release that side. Be very careful with these. Another Hermle movement I worked on, one side of this broke off. I was still able to use it. I super glued it back. I just made it work. Ended up ordering a new piece that had a new screw with it, but these are pretty much impossible to find. They're nothing but, let the clock finish here. They're nothing but threads and then a slot in the top. There's no real head to it, and so these little top parts will break off if you put too much pressure. So be very careful with these. Okay, I need to get the whole rod out. There we go. Alright, so my memory is such I need extra reminders of what goes to what. So I will put the rod and the 2 pieces back together until I go to clean it. Alright, this ring is in our way. You see it's welded on, it's riveted on. But if you turn it over, you've got posts with nuts on them. I'm not going to be able to get in there and get on them. Maybe they have some special tool at the Hermle plant because they like to do this kind of thing. But I'm going to take these off there, there, and here. I think there's just 3. And I'm going to have to use pliers because I can't get in there with anything else. They are not easy to get onto. Alright, 1, 2, and 3. So you can see it a little bit better now. So now it's time to take a few more pictures. So a couple unusual things about this kind of movement. Snail, rack. We're used to these lift levers. This wheel has 2 pins on it. And this is what makes the end of this work differently. This is the little piece that's supposed to hold your bell arm and have it not strike the last time. So it's either up here in the inactive position, or when your bell rises up it falls underneath it based on these. Right now it's going to hold it up in the air because it's up against a pin, so that'll be your hour strike. But then as it turns, it's in a gap, it lets it fall down under the bell arm, and as the bell rings it comes up under it and holds it and keeps it from striking that last strike. So this little spring and this little end lever are real important. I need to make sure that that little spot's clean. Spring looks fine. This arm needs to be moving like it should, and then the end of it needs to be moving like it should for your clock to strike the right number of bells. It seems like the most common problems are wear on that second gear and the clock not striking the half hour, the right number of strikes. You got little springs built in here. We're just going to start taking things apart. I've taken a ton of pictures. I took pictures coming in at this angle. I took pictures from the top coming in to try to get any question I had, you know, hold the plate and kind of shine into the bottom of the plate. Get all the pictures from every angle you think you might ever want, and then some, because you'll wish you had more. Not too bad for a 40-year-old clock. 31 and 33. That's the, if you had to order replacement springs. Let me get a picture with the plate off. A little greasy. There's the click I was talking about. The spring is straight. I couldn't tell if the spring just came straight. It's so tight in there with the plate being set down so close like this instead of a wider, longer arbors on these gears. I couldn't tell if the spring came up and bent around or what it did, but I was finally able to tell this was the end of my click. So you just push on the end of that. It'll push the very tip of it out. It's got a good tip still. It's not worn, so it's holding well. And these are riveted. They're not going to come out. I need a different container for the other side. The back of these is not very deep to fit in that hole. Maybe that's why they have that plate screwed on there. The oil is dripping out of this when I did that. It just dripped out on the plate. So they are well oiled. I've got to get up under there and take this little washer off. That's what's holding this on, is this little washer. But let's start with this side. And again, 2 screws. Get a quick picture of that. You'll want a picture to look at to see which way the screws were aimed originally. There's a little tab down here. This little tab comes up, and this is your bell shut off. So when you shut the bell off, the little tab comes up and keeps the arm from moving on the bell. All the rest of the mechanism still works, the arm just doesn't hit the bell. I need to get a towel down here because these little screws bounce and then disappear in and never land under the desk and you can't find them. At least they're not brass. You could run a magnet and maybe find them. I've already had to look back at my pictures because when I picked the mechanism up, this fell off. I'm like, okay, I've only taken 1 piece off, so it should go with that 1 piece. A little tiny pressure spring, 2-armed. So I looked back at my pictures that show the piece I just took off, and you can see right up next to the plate a little piece of a silver sticking out. And this, I put back together, doesn't have one. It's brass, so that tells me that little 2-arm pressure spring goes right between this piece and the plate. So I'm going to add that to the ensemble so I don't lose it. I put it back on there like so. It's going to push up against the plate, put pressure on this little arm. And when your movement is needing cleaned, that's what you're going to find is little tiny thin washers and things are stuck to the plate. So investigate both sides as you take it off. And I took a picture holding it up of where this strike arm is on the surface of that and the relation of the pins to this, so that when I set it back up, I can set it back up where it'll be striking right, hopefully. So anyway, I turned this to the lowest point so I could get up under here and get this little E-clip off. Might need a smaller screwdriver.